This is Micheal Imperioli, and these are records in my life.
It'll work like a charm before. I stand and knock outside your door.
Hi, Michael. How are you?
I'm good, you?
Good, thank you. Thank you so much for doing this.
Thanks for having me.
I appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to be on Records of My Life.
My pleasure.
Fantastic. Can you tell us about Zopa a little bit? Tell us about your new project and who you collaborated with and inspirations on the record.
The new project is a single that Zopa, we've been together since 2006, although we took an 8-year hiatus because I was living in California, really. And we did a few shows right after I moved, but then it just became impossible because we weren't in the same city to practice. But we started playing again right when I moved to New York last year, and it was in some ways really good that we were apart for a while because we all matured as people, and I find that the sound is actually different in a lot of ways. Just we've changed a little bit aesthetically and stuff. So we actually recorded an album around 2012 or 13, and it sat on a shelf until really in the pandemic. I was on Instagram for the first time and posting a lot about music, and a lot of people found my posts kind of surprising for some reason and interesting, and I started connecting to a lot of music fans, especially indie rock fans. So we put the record out, and people started listening to it. It actually made it on Rolling Stone's Best of 21 list, even though it came out in 20 officially. But one of the critics put it on their list as one of the best records of last year, as he got turned on to it last year. So people actually started listening, and we started doing concerts again in August, and playing with a lot of cool indie bands, mostly in New York. We did a festival in Seattle, and met a lot of cool bands from different parts of the country. But the difference is now, when we first were playing shows, nobody knew what to expect. Like there was nothing to listen to. There was also no social media. So, and it was hard, very hard at the time, hard to get people to come to rock shows, even in New York, and we played a few shows in LA and stuff. And even being someone who was on a big TV show, it was hard to get people to rock shows. Put posters up only goes so far, trying to do some press maybe. But so having a social media presence and being in touch with indie music fans and having a record out, instead of people just curious about some actor who has a band, they're actually coming to hear the music that they have listened to and hopefully like. So that's been cool. So we started writing some new material this year. One song we recorded, hopefully record a bunch more later this year. And John and Yellow, who produced it along with Elijah in our band, John produces a lot of Dinosaur Jr. stuff
Yes.
with Vile, and done some great work with Sonic Youth. And we went in the studio with him for 2 days and made this single, and we had a really good time. John was wonderful.
I listened to the record, and it's a very New York sounding, and just cut me off if I'm completely off on this thing, but I heard a lot of Johnny Thunders and Television. Are those some of the artists that inspired you? This is two parts of the question. And what is your favorite New York album?
They're definitely big. I love Television. I love Johnny Thunders and the Dolls and the Heartbreakers and Richard Hell. My favorite New York album probably is Lou Reed's live Take No Prisoners, for a lot of reasons. Although it's a live album, right? he talks through half of it, and I just always find it fascinating. I listen to it a lot, but also because it's a really good insight into who he was as a performer and artist at that time. I think it was 78 or 9. But also there's there's certain performances of classic songs on that record that I particularly Sweet Jane, Coney Island Baby, and Berlin, that are really quite amazing, and Sarai Love. Um, his performances on those songs are really amazing, intense, passionate. Um, I mean, Lou was my hero, really. I mean, I think he was, just really took things to a whole other level, and as a songwriter in a very different way than Dylan did. They're almost like, I mean, Lou was almost like a novelist, writing songs. So he was a big influence. I actually took lessons from Richard Lloyd from television.
Wow.
Not a lot, but I really learned how to practice from Richard. So there's that. I have that little bit of connection to television, but I was also really influenced by besides the punk scene and the New York punk scene and even the British punk scene, but a lot of like post punk, maybe even more so, like the Smiths and Echo and the Bunnymen, um, and bands like that in the '80s, and Joy Division, of course. Uh, and then '90s more when things got more into the alternative, call it alternative and indie scene, like Galaxy 500 was a really big influence on the band as a trio. And what they were doing as musicians as a trio really influenced what I wanted to do with Zopa. And then Dinosaur Jr., of course, Sonic Youth, bands like that. Nirvana was a huge band for me in the '90s. My Bloody Valentine.
Great. I mean, these are all great bands and the
Those are my
pantheon of indie
favorite.
rock. I got to thank you again for being on Records in My Life. This shows about you, the artist, and the records that inspire you. What you've mentioned so many great bands. Give us a record which you'd like to have been a fly on the wall in the studio. Like which record would you like to have been, just hovering over and watching recording sessions?
That's a really good question. I mean, there's so many, right? I mean, obviously, Exile on Main Street must have been just, I mean, to be in those sessions must have been very interesting. That album would probably be amazing. The first New York Dolls album, that must have been pretty fun, being seeing how that was going down. Was it Ton Rudgren who produced that? I think that record for some
Which
reason.
is incredible. But you were living in New York City because you had moved to New York from, I think, kind of more of the suburbs, and you were living in the '80s when a lot of this stuff, when a lot of these great bands were playing. Like, were you getting into any of those shows at the time?
One of the most exciting bands I ever saw was a band called Miracle Legion, who was a band from Connecticut. They still play, actually, but it was probably the mid '80s. Club called Maxwell's, which was in Hoboken, New Jersey, which was a tremendous rock club. Galaxy 500, when I saw them for the first time, that was at the first Knitting Factory on Houston Street. That blew my mind. There was something about those three musicians that was very special and very unique. The sound, the way they approached.
Sorry to interrupt you. Which album from? They don't have
That was
that
On
many.
Fire.
Yeah, right.
That was right after On Fire came out, and they played at the Knitting Factory, and I had just heard of them and started listening to the record, and that show, that first time I saw them several times, but that first show just like knocked me out. Um, I saw, I guess, what year was this? The year Loveless came out.
Hmm,
Um,
that's amazing.
I went to see Dinosaur Jr. We were working on a film project. My friend Tom Gilroy, who's an indie filmmaker, film project that never happened. But Michael Stipe is a friend of Tom's and mine, long time friend of Tom's, very close friend. But I met Michael when I was 19 years old. But we were in Athens, staying with Michael, working on this project. And Dinosaur Jr. came into town playing at the 40 Watt, and we went to see Dinosaur Jr. It was this band opening for them that I had never heard of,
Hmm,
called My Bloody Valentine, and
wow.
it was I never seen anything or heard anything like that in my whole life,
Oh,
and it was really, when you don't expect it
yeah.
and have no idea, and then something that profound happens, it was unforgettable.
Were you wearing earplugs for the show?
I was young, I guess, and was
Right.
just transported. I mean, for me, music, rock music, is about transcendence. When that happens, it really is. There's nothing,
Sure.
like a lot of bands are funny on stage, and certain bands are known to be. Yeah, I don't want rock bands to be. I don't really care if you're fun. I don't want fun or funny. I really want
Right.
transcendence. And maybe that sounds really highfalutin or pretentious, but I really do. I've gotten that through. I want like salvation through rock music.
It makes 100% sense. I mean, because you want to hear the music and you want to be like up. You want to go to a show, right? And close your eyes and just like float,
No, I
float on
still
there,
do that.
listening
I
to your
mean, I
favorite
went to
band. That's
see
like,
Bardo Pond at Knitting
yeah,
Factory right before the pandemic, and pushed my way to the front of the stage and just got knocked on my ass. I'm still that
that's
guy.
fantastic. I got to tell you, your knowledge in music is. I'm not to say that I'm John Peel, but it's great. It's fantastic that you have such a passion and love
I'm
of
missing
great
a lot.
bands,
You know
indie
who really,
bands. It's
right before I started Zopa, and met the drummer, I was listening to a lot of Cat Power, particularly that album, What Would the Community Think? And she was a really big um, influence at that time on, you know, I can't say why, the way she performs, the way she writes songs, the way she plays guitar, like it really moved me a lot. And she's quite a great performer as well. Really special.
I think I know the answer to this next question, but coffee with an artist, alive or dead?
So, coffee with an artist, live or dead?
Alive or dead, yeah. Any artist you can have an espresso with or a cup of coffee.
I've gotten to have coffee with some artists that I never would imagine. Probably Morrissey. I've never met
Words of
Morrissey, but I've met a lot of my people that we spoke about today and heroes and stuff. Well, I've been very fortunate. But never. I've seen Morrissey play a lot, but yeah, maybe him. I think he'd be very interesting to talk to. I know people in his band, as I know a lot about him, um, but never met him.
he'd be an interesting.
Oh, of course.
Some of the things he said have been quite surprising.
Very
But
surprising, but he's just very, very smart, obviously.
yeah,
His, as a lyricist, not many on that level. Really, really not many.
words of wisdom for your fans and our audience.
Rock and roll can save your soul.
That's a good one. Thank you again. This has been a delight, a real
My pleasure.
I so enjoy talking to you, and
Thanks
good
for
luck with
that.
the new. I think you're on a new. It's a newer show, right? And you're on the new
I'm doing a
season.
show for Hulu, a brand new show called This Fool that's really funny. It's a half hour, very, a very funny show. And then I'm going to film the second season of a show that with the new cast is called The White Lotus for HBO.
Yeah, that's a big one.
So those are the acting things, and then more music. Yeah.
I mean, congratulations on everything. I mean, I'm happy for you. You're doing the stuff you love, right? Making music seems like
Yeah, yeah. Yeah,
fantastic.
really because of the Olmo and Elijah, the guys that I play with. That's really what makes it very special.
Hi, I'm Mark Henning, the director and editor of Records in My Life. Guess you liked it because we're here at the end of the video, so hit like, leave us a comment, and subscribe. And if you're feeling supportive, consider clicking over to patreon.com/RIMLTV, and you can help us out there. Cheers. See you next time.